Conker's Bad Fur Day is an M-rated Nintendo 64 game created by Rareware. Now, something cool about video games is that much like movies, they aren't bound to the same censorship laws that television is, for example. This is why video games contain all sorts of fun things like violence, swear words, PPs, boobies. There's still governing bodies like the ESRB that give you content ratings, and you still have to make sure your game for adults isn't too adult lest it be rated AO and refuse to be sold in stores or anywhere other than PC. This seems like a stupid, redundant rating system. Isn't the point of a rating system just to tell you what's in something? Why does it have so much power over what we can and can't put in art? Wait, hold on, I'm digressing pretty hard here. The point I'm trying to make here is if you're making a video game and it's rated M, you can get away with a lot more than you can on TV. You can swear without having to censor it, which brings us back to Conker's Bad Fur Day.
There's nothing like a good
Yeah, this M-rated game, or one of the main jokes, is that these cute cartoon characters are saying swear words. Bleeps out some of those swear words.
Okay, I don't think I've offended now.
Yeah, you probably already knew that, but I felt like making a video about this, so let's talk about this dumb shit. Jesus Christ, why the fuck does summer have to be so warm? Okay, so when I say this game bleeps swears, it's not every swear word. The swear that's most consistently bleeped is the F word. I mean, feck off is written on these signs, but that's the closest we really get, and I guess that doesn't technically count. There's also the C word, both of them, I think. There's the part with this little girl puppet thing where she says, and I can only assume she's saying duck hunt without the duh, because that's what they said in The Exorcist, which is what this part is referencing. As for the other C word, at the start of the game, the bar Conker's at is called the Cock and Plucker, which I think is supposed to be referring to a rooster. Later in the game, that same Exorcist girl says, which also seems like they're borrowing an Exorcist line, so they're probably using that word, but just the version that refers to the penis, which means it's worse to say now. There's also the F slur, maybe? They say it in The Exorcist, and she might be saying it here. Then there's shit. The game lets it go free most of the time.
And I'm going to throw my shit at you.
But sometimes censors it.
And that is the shittest, crappiest, shittest kick-ass I've ever seen.
And you is a bastard, stupid bastard.
What'd you do that for? Dumb shit.
Yeah, dumb shit.
It really only happens at the start of the game and once in the middle of the game or so with this line. I have no idea why this one's inconsistent, but shit is usually a word that's inconsistently censored. Like really, some shows censor the word, but only sometimes, like Rick and Morty.
Morty, not that I give a shit, but are you okay? Man, I really overthink shit when I'm angry.
Anyway, finally, there's also one time where it seems as though they censor ass for some reason.
That's tossed it right up there.
I mean, what else could the cog say here? The syllable right before it is ah. Anyway, other than that, there's no more words that are bleeped out. As for why they're bleeped out in the first place, I don't entirely know. There's the idea that they bleeped it because it'd be funnier. I mean, that seems to be the case for scenes like this. Though I personally don't believe that entirely, because I'd think if they found it funny, they'd bleep out more things. Yeah, we'll get to it. The idea I have is that it might be due to the fact that it was 2001. It had been a few years since the ESRB. Video games were starting to get more comfortable with mature content like swearing, but they weren't as comfortable as they are now. The spooky F word was pretty rare, and I can think of two other games that aren't Conker where it's bleeped out as well, those being the South Park FPS and Duke Nukem 3D.
This is pretty f***ed up right here.
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
According to a random Google search I made, they censored the game because Nintendo told them to. Oh cool, a whole fandom wiki article comes with this thing too. Apparently there was other stuff that was also censored, just in a more invisible way. There was a surgery scene with one of the war squirrels where they were cutting him up when he was still alive.
What the fuck?
According to this wiki as well, this part originally had two squirrels not wearing bulletproof vests and also died. I don't understand why that was too far. There was also another part cut from the war chapter with a teddy bear Hitler. It seems like Nintendo really didn't like this chapter. Also in this scene with the paint equipment, they were originally going to be wearing KKK outfits apparently. Hey, what does that stand for, Rare? crazy conclamor. Nothing about this website is sourced, so I can't entirely prove that Nintendo asked them to censor some of the swear words. But that scene with the squirrel being surgeried and a few others are real and cut, so maybe. Anyway, I personally think the reason is because video game publishers, at least the more mainstream ones that put their games in the stores, were a bit too worried to put a fuck in their games at this point, or at least an unbleeped one. They likely weren't confident enough yet, despite the M rating theoretically preventing kids from hearing the filth and preventing controversy. Though, by 2001, they were clearly getting more comfortable with swearing and teasing the F word. I mean, this game does have tons of other swearing, including British swearing, and most of them are unbleeped. Not to mention the swearing in this game isn't super strict. You can still usually hear the F sound at many points. It was clear that by the turn of the console generations that mature content in general was becoming more commonplace in games, and as the 6th generation continued, boundaries would be pushed more and more, which means there's a golden opportunity here. Also, by the turn of the generation, in 2002, Microsoft purchased Rare for some reason. I know Rare needed to be bought out, but I find it strange how Nintendo didn't. Like, Nintendo, they were one of the only third parties that actually bothered to make games for that cartridge using Nintendo 64 shit you guys made. And you didn't buy them out? Yeah, anyway, Rare didn't really do much after the acquisition. Not much doesn't mean nothing though. And one thing they did do was remake Conker's Bad Fur Day. And a remake of Conker's Bad Fur Day in 2005 on the Xbox seems like the perfect place to release the game, entirely unbleeped for all to hear. I mean, by this time, GTA San Andreas had already been released, which was a mainstream AAA M-rated game with a bunch of swearing, including fuck.
Shit, them motherfuckers headed to the hood.
Not to mention, the Xbox wasn't some kiddie shit. This was a console for grown-ups, containing games for grown-ups, like Halo and Dead or Alive Extreme. Seems like a no-brainer to put the game out free of censorship. Have I telegraphed the joke enough? Yeah, they did the opposite. They censored the dialogue even more.
Oh shit! Tell you what! That shit! Oh shit! Tell you what! That
Which is really weird. The game was literally originally called Conker Live and Uncut. I guess Xbox are bigger weenies than Nintendo. So, what's different? Twat is now censored.
You swat! You
How dare they? I'm Canadian, so I don't hear this word at all, unless it's from a different place. According to Wikipedia, it's considered moderate language, and the one time it was said on Rick and Morty, it was censored, so I guess it would be censored on TV. If those are the rules we're going by here, I don't know. Shit is censored every time now, even in the Great Mighty Pooh song.
And I am going to throw my at you.
I mean, at least they censored it with a fart sound, I guess. But I find it kind of hilarious how we can literally look at shit and even see it coming out of an asshole, but we can't hear the slightly ruder version of the word crap, which is the slightly ruder version of the word poo. There are videos on YouTube of specifically this part of Live and Reloaded where you can hear Sloprano uncensored.
I shit at you.
And I assume that's because they used the audio available for download on Rareware's website back in the day. Anyway, shit is said pretty frequently in this game, so it's a lot more noticeable and distracting than the twat censorship. But what's even more noticeable now that shit is censored every time is that they kept shite uncensored.
shite!
Why? They mean the same thing, sound almost the same, are spelled almost the same. Why the fuck is shit so much worse than shite? Who is responsible for this decision? I need to know their priorities. You don't need to be British to figure out that these words pretty much are the same fucking thing. What else? Oh yes, asshole. That's bleeped.
Fuck you, asshole.
Ass isn't though.
Big boulder. My ass.
I guess it's because asshole is more specific or something. It's hard to find logic in the illogical. I'm trying my best here. They also censor the word very inconsistently. That's something worth bringing up. These words, most of the time, are censored so poorly that you can still tell what they're saying. Anyway, despite what I've gone over here so far, I think the stupidest bit of censorship in this whole game is this part.
Guys, do you know what the password is?
They censored the word fellatio.
Fellatio.
In a scene that has no sexual context. The joke is just Conker says fellatio, and that's a sex word, lamau. Fun fact, in the original game, Conker said nothing that was bleeped. it was everyone around him that was rude and profane. The most profane he is in Bad Fur Day is saying ass twice and calling this xenomorph a bitch. He also says fellatio, I guess, but the original game didn't consider that word worthy of censorship. But the Xbox does. And now something Conker says is worthy of censorship, apparently. Does this word even technically count as a swear word? I thought this word was like a clinical use word, like the word you would use to substitute ruder ones. This seems about as stupid to me as censoring the word copulation or coitus. And by the way, no, you can't dig into the files and find the uncensored recordings in either game. The audio files are pre-censored. They really didn't want you hearing the bad words. And by the way, in case you didn't know this, the game is still rated M. So like, what the f? Why? According to this fandom wiki page, Microsoft didn't let them, but is there any way of proving this? Censor Gaming asked some of the people involved in the game. They pretty much said that Microsoft got cold feet and the devs didn't mind too much because the bleeps sounded funnier. So despite them liking the bleeps to an extent, it looks like it was Microsoft's decision at the end of the day. So it seems to me that Microsoft just turned into a bunch of wieners. What I find funny too is that Conker Live and Reloaded has so many improvements over the original game. The music has been completely redone and sounds amazing. The voice acting isn't compressed anymore, so now you can tell Kaizir plays nearly every character. There's been control improvements, mainly in the shooting controls and UI, and the graphics have been improved somewhat. And by somewhat, I mean the environments look incredible, but it's just some things they didn't update that makes the visuals clash a bit. Like some of the models look like shit. Many of them don't have expressive eyes, and the animations are still stuck in the 5th generation. And also, for some reason, the Great Mighty Pooh still doesn't have a tongue. But you know, it's clear the game mostly looks far better. What's interesting is that the game is more inappropriate in some aspects. Remember that removed scene with the squirrels executed by firing squad? That's back in. Microsoft doesn't seem to give a shit about how violent the game is and made it more violent in some aspects. In the same chapter, the electric chair scene is way longer and gorier. The surgery scene still wasn't put back in though. Something else worth noting is that when the Great Mighty Pooh grabs one of the dung beetles, he flips the other beetle off, which I'm shocked wasn't censored in and of itself. So, you know, it's not like Conker Live and Reloaded is garbage. It's mainly just this one thing that's, above all else, insanely distracting. And considering the original game was fine enough already, many end up preferring the original because it doesn't have this huge distraction, or I guess for Conker has less of this distraction. I'll get back to this topic in a bit though. For now, do you remember the whole live part of this game? Well, that's the online multiplayer, and that's also censored. Unless, of course, you beat the single-player campaign. If you do that, you can uncensor the multiplayer, and when you beat the single-player campaign and have all 6 class medals, you unlock Potty Mouth. And after that, they say all kinds of swear words without any bleeps. What? This wasn't something you could download from their website or anything. This was in the game. You just had to play it long enough. And despite the original Xbox Live servers being down, you can still play the game online and see it for yourself with the use of X-Link Kai. The only reason I mention this is because that's my name. But yeah, censor the word fellatio, but don't censor cocksucker. Actually, no, censor all these words in the single player and also the multiplayer until you beat the game and play long enough. Then you can hear your multiplayer characters say all kinds of swear words, but not in the single player because... like seriously, the more I dig into this, the less it makes any goddamn sense at all. What are the rules here? Did Microsoft not get cold feet after all? Did they not notice? Were they aware that everyone on Xbox Live was swearing every 3rd syllable to begin with? How did this happen? Why is this whole thing so inconsistent? Well, I don't know. However, I know despite how I've been really digging into this aspect of both games, more so the remake, this whole time, because that's the point of this video, I have to admit, at least for the Conker games, it's not really a big deal. You can still tell what's happening in the story. You can still tell what the jokes are, and sometimes the bleeps make it funnier for me, I guess. Although personally speaking, I'm not really one of those people who find censored swearing funnier. at least anymore. I'm likely to find it annoying, but most of the time I'm completely indifferent. Like when it's on TV, it's more annoying. When it's YouTubers, I'm more indifferent. But still, I should state that swear bleeps aren't normally a fundamental flaw. Because this is a video solely about this aspect of these games, it seems like I'm making a mountain out of a molehill. Just because I have lots to say about what I consider to be an issue or an annoyance with a game that I have, that doesn't mean I don't think it's small in comparison to the rest of the game's quality. I just have a lot to say about it, and this will probably be further demonstrated in my 5 Nights at Freddy's video. I don't think everything the remake improves on is brought down entirely because of this dumb decision. I see many people call this a crappy remake just on the basis that it's censored. However, I don't think that me thinking it's not a fundamental flaw in either game really changes or invalidates anything I said, any of the points I made in this video, or whatever. Because yes, it is also insanely weird and stupid. That was really the point of this video. I found the censorship strange the more I thought about it, and I wanted to point out how strange the censorship habits displayed by these games are for something so small. Like really, you can show a ton of shit, but you can't say it. And if I made it sound like the worst thing ever, that's likely just because of my hatred of censorship like this, and my hatred of the perpetuation by rating systems or people in charge of artists, be it studios or advertisers. That words like fuck or other overly scrutinized aspects of art are the worst things ever compared to stuff like violence. Like, I'm not saying we should stop letting violence go through. I'm saying, why the fuck are we still enacting limits of appropriateness on shit already made for adults? Yeah, don't swear in things meant for 7-year-olds, but Conker is for adults. Let them swear. Oh, look at that. So in my research for this video, I found a ROM for an uncensored version of Conker's Bad Fur Day. An uncensored version of Conker's Bad Fur Day. Here, give it a listen.
Why is it everybody so offensive around here?
Either bring me back me missing cunks, or fuck off!
You don't have to shout.
I'm deaf! Speak up or fuck off!
Yeah. I don't quite think these are the original recording files. It's kind of hard to tell with the compression if some guy's just doing an impression of the dialogue, or if they just edited the dialogue and made the character say it YouTube poop style, but it just doesn't sound quite right. It's a good effort though.
I'll get him a fucking asshole.
So yeah, technically it's an uncensored Conker's Bad Fur Day, but it's not the uncensored Conker's Bad Fur Day. And sometimes it isn't even uncensored. I guess they forgot. Anyway, I think that's about it. I don't really have anything else Conker bleeping wise to talk about. Oh, what? You want me to talk about these things? Well, here's my official response. No. F that shit. Oh my god, I am so goddamn sweaty. Why?